Just like every good story, there's a beginning and an ending. This roller coaster of a story is still ongoing 2 years later with no end in sight. It all started when I wanted to further my education and get a bachelor's in information systems. To give a little about myself to help paint the picture, I'm 26, 4'8", female. I get called jailbait often because I look way younger. During the beginning of my studies, my current boyfriend and I had broken up, so I told myself I would be staying single until I finished school. I took to the internet, and after my breakup, as most do, just looking for company, I found this one group on Facebook where I felt like I belonged. I got along with everyone, and I loved to flirt in this group. That's where I met him. Let's call him Kemper. Like many others before him, I had latched my claws into him and began flirting. I even had a little crush on him. Things began innocently. I flirted, he flirted back in the group. He seemed very mysterious, though. I guess that's what drew me to him. He didn't have a profile pic, not of him at least. He never told me his age or what he looked like. After a few weeks of flirting, a woman in the group we were both in had mentioned that it was his birthday. I knew I wanted to do something for him, but I was pretty limited on what I could do. Now, before I get hell for this, just know I've never sent an unsolicited topless picture to another man, not until that day at least. On the pic I wrote happy birthday, his name, and pressed the send button on Messenger. Just that split-second decision has changed my life for the past 2 years. It's so easy looking back and thinking what you could have done differently, but there's no going back now. Within a week of talking nonstop to Kemper, he was already telling me that he loved me. He was working as a truck driver, but at the same time he had broken his knee at work. So he was out of commission for a few months, which allowed him to talk to me as much as possible. During this time, I was working as a delivery driver with DoorDash. It was easy for me to make my own schedule since I wasn't done with school just yet. The first few months were great. We would talk constantly over the phone and through Messenger. Also, let me point out quickly that this was a long-distance relationship between Kemper and myself. So, I remember the first fight we ever had. Hell, even before I could see the red flag slapping me in the face at every turn. However, our first fight was because I was texting him while driving. He flipped his lid and totally went crazy on me. It was very unexpected and it made me cry. I can't tell you how many times I tried to apologize and tell him it wouldn't happen again. After the incident, I was blown away how easily something so little, or at least I thought it was so little, would make him do a complete 180. Months go by and the fight continues more frequently. One point he had mentioned how cool it would be to have an app where you could see each other's location. In my naive and in-love state, I did some quick search and found an app called Life 360. We both downloaded the app and now he could see wherever I go. At first, it was a neat idea to say the least, to follow him around everywhere he went to feel closer and more connected to him. That's what I used it for. He, however, wanted it to use it for different reasons. I learned over time how controlling, manipulative, and how damn right psychotic he was. He would argue about things, and even when I get mad, he would somehow turn things around on me and make me feel like I am the bad guy. The first time we broke up, it was a shitstorm. He had broken up with me on the group we were both in just because I'd flirted with another guy and he didn't like it. He was telling other guys in the group how much of a whore I was and how could they could have me. He even threatened to give out my address to the guys in the group so they can come to my house and, well, I'm sure you get the idea. My friend, let's call him Ozzy for the sake of the story. He was a member of the group and he could tell how upset I was in the group comments and he messaged me personally for the first time. Now, let me tell you, I don't know what it was, but I seem like I attract monsters. Monster is the best way to describe Kemper and Ozzy, to be honest. They're both well-off men with the world at their fingertips. I guess that's the part of controlling bits or showing aggression when they just don't get their way about things. More I go into detail about Ozzy, I just want to recount a few incidences with Kemper to give the readers a better understanding of what kind of a man he was, and how dumb I am letting things continue the way they have. One incident happened months ago. He and I were fighting, seemingly over nothing, and I was driving home from a long day of work and school, and Kemper just blurts out, "I wish you would just run off the road into a ditch and die." I was speechless. Tears welled up in my eyes, and the driving became harder because I could not see, so he almost got his wish. I had to stop at the Dollar General in my town to compose myself. I couldn't breathe. I was wheezing. The man I thought had loved me was wishing I would die. If he hated me so frickin' much, why is he keeping me around? I just wanted to curl up into a ball at that moment and disappear for a while. I didn't want to go home, but I just couldn't stay parked at Dollar General. I was really at a loss for what to do. It wasn't until a while later where I told my mom and dad what he said. They were getting their pitchforks ready, wanting to reenact the Salem witch trials because of him, and ever since then, they haven't liked him. Another incident. He and I were talking about meeting, and he told me that he would need the Menopause Act in place. Yeah, he made that shit up. Now basically, he doesn't want to have sex in the off chance we get pregnant. He told me if I ever did get pregnant, he would make me have a maternity test to see if it's his, and then he would make me abort the child. He does not want kids, but I do, so of course I was really upset, and it made me cry yet again. Making me cry is a common occurrence with him over the last 2 years. One night, another fight breaks out, and he loves to drink beer. He loves to hurt me even more by saying beer is his best friend, and beer would never disappoint him like I do. During this late night phone call, he was extremely drunk, and he was threatening to kill himself. I just couldn't take the arguing, so I bid him a good evening and let that be it and hung up on him. I received a large number of texts saying all sorts of things, but one really stood out. He wrote, "If I kill myself tonight, it'll be because you made me do it." I didn't see these texts until the next morning, but you can imagine how panicked I was. My heart just sank, and of course, tears. He's good at making me feel like crap. Good at manipulating, lying, controlling. It all just becomes way too much. It's really more than anyone should deal with, no matter how much you love somebody. The next day, I begged him to get help for his drinking, his depression, his suicidal behavior, but he just refuses. Being so far away, there's only so much I can do. Kemper has anger issues along with so many other issues as well. I know I'm not perfect, but at least I don't act like he does. I'm very friendly and I get along with almost everybody. I guess that's part of his problem with me. We are complete opposites when it comes to that. During our time together, I had gotten 2 other jobs at different times because the DoorDash gig, well, it's just part-time though. Notice I said I had gotten 2 jobs? Well, the first one was at Walgreens. The very first day on the job, I was doing certifications for the job, and during the whole time, he was blowing up my phone, telling me I don't need another job, or telling me I won't have time for him, and he would just find someone to take my place, while also just keeping me around. I just couldn't take it, so I quit. Fast forward a few months later, I get another job. This one was at Dollar General, just at the town over. I did work there more than a day, but his bitching, nagging, ultimately made me quit that job as well. I just recently had a talk with him about graduating soon, and how will I find a job at a hospital working normal hours with better pay? Well, he didn't like that too much either. He found some reason to be mad at me and start a fight again, and he has gotten in the habit of ignoring me for a day or two. He's even ignored me for a whole week, and honestly, that was the most peace I'd gotten in a long time. Things have just drastically gone downhill and quick. He tells me all the time how he doesn't trust me because I wanted to go on a date with a cop. This was just some guy I met at the gas station, and I gave him my Snapchat, okay? He seemed nice. Now, Kemper tells me all the time I need to build trust because the incident with the cop has caused him to have trust issues. I even have a work colleague, yes, a guy that works at a Mexican restaurant, offer free food, and boy, do I love some Mexican food. I see this guy quite frequently and talk to him because I pick up DoorDash orders from where he works. This guy has asked me out quite often, but I turn him down every single time. So he asked if I would like the free Mexican food and we could just hang out at the restaurant and eat and talk as friends. I guess I am really naive because I learned later on that this guy had a crush on me. How did I find out he had a crush on me, you ask? Well, I was talking to him one day, maybe about a week after he offered me free food and just to hang, and he began to get extremely close to me and kissed me on the lips at the restaurant where customers were sitting around eating. I jerked my head back and told him how inappropriate that was and reminded him that I in fact do have a boyfriend, which he knew from the very beginning. I just don't understand men. I know how bad it seems, and you're probably thinking that Kemper has every right to have trust issues, but I respect him in every possible way, and every time in certain situations like this happen, I handle it the best way I know how. I didn't want to make a scene when the waiter at the Mexican restaurant kissed me. Now, in each fight Kemper and I have, he always tells me how much of a whore I am, or asks if I do OnlyFans. He even told me the reason why I deleted Life 360 is because I'm going off at night with other men and eating their buttholes. His words, not mine. But no, the reason why I deleted the Life 360 app is because I needed to gain some control back in my life. As of right now, Kemper and I have the chance to meet this coming January 2023, although I'm not really sure about it. 2 years of ups and downs, and him having my heart and ripping it out when it's convenient for him has me thinking this may not be the best idea. Also, it may be the fact that he has told me his violent past with ex-girlfriends of his. This happened many years ago, but it scares me knowing he can be this violent. What had happened was his girlfriend at the time was putting on makeup. He hates makeup. And they got into an altercation with him blacking out and him pinning her down to the bed and choking her. He didn't even realize what he was doing until he came to. He's told me lately that if he ever caught me in his bed with another man, he would punch me in the face. Not the guy simply because a man didn't know better, and I did. I spent a lot of time and effort into this relationship and wanting it to work out in the end. But honestly, not sure if meeting would be the best thing to do now or ever. Now, before we end this, let's talk about Ozzy. He's a tad bit older than me. He's 49 years old while Kemper is 48. You would think they'd be very mature for their age. Well, Ozzy is very mature, Kemper not so much. Ozzy and I began talking the first time Kemper and I had broken up. He was being a concerned friend and asked me what was going on. I spilled everything to him. He was like a best friend I didn't know I had. He was so easy to talk to, and he even began opening up to me about his troubled upbringing. He would talk about everything, and things began to escalate at a more sexual topic. He would tell me about his dark fantasies, which at one point I would have shared with him, but not so much anymore. I'm more vanilla nowadays when it comes to stuff like that. After a month or so of talking, he would begin to tell me that he loved me. I've only had a handful of conversations, which were mostly consisted of sex talking, and now he loved me? Majority of the time, we just exchanged gifts with a few voice clips shared between us. Over time, I felt bad for talking to this man, but he was a comfort when Kemper and I had broken up, but our conversations went from semi-normal to just weird, I guess. Let me mention real quick, just like Kemper, he didn't have a profile pic, but he would post pictures of himself on the group. I know what he looked like, and he was a very handsome man. After a while of talking to him, he would send me other pictures, which seemed to be newer pictures, which looked nothing like the pictures he had posted in the group. I didn't make a fuss about it, just assumed the pictures in the group were just older, I guess. One day he had told me he was getting a haircut. I was trying to be polite and ask for a picture to see the new hairstyle. Days later, he finally sent me that picture. I wasn't sure who this person in the picture was. It looked absolutely like nothing in the previous pictures he had sent. A lot of the messages I received from him is how he wants to breed me. He refers to himself as Mr. Wolf and tells me he wants to marry me and steal me away from Kemper and get me pregnant. There's even darker stuff, but I don't want to talk about it here. This is my story so far. Not sure how things will turn out, but as of right now, let's not meet Kemper and Ozzy. Both scare me in ways I cannot explain. I do love Kemper with all my heart, but he has a lot of issues he needs to work on before I ever consider meeting him, so it may never happen.